Okie dokie, Coron, we're going to record a demo for you now. Let's connect to the server. I appreciate this isn't very professional, but fuck it. Why does it take so long to retrieve the information about a server that's on the same computer? I don't know.
Here. Think you can handle this?
Beep. Here we go! Wahoo! Sure, I think maybe I should close connections from outside. Oh well. If anybody joins, I guess I'll have a chance to play the map with somebody. A3b, I quite like that. It's good, looks good. Well, how has this 2 minutes been for you? Excellent. I really should get a lovely MOTD. Let's choose myself. Okay, let's start by saying I know it's an alpha map. Well, later on I think it would be a good idea if, rather than having your credits in a spectator cam, is actually have spectator cams in the map and have people entering the game for the first time, the map that is, look upon one of your most interesting areas, an area which would give them, you know, an idea about what the map is all about, or that sort of thing. Or maybe even have them just follow the spectator cameras that people are near, you know. For instance, Werewolf in Bank, he enables and disables spectator cameras depending on where people are. But you know, it's there are better ways to do things. I think you can actually send an input to a spectator camera to say, "Me, look at me." But you can also specify a spectator camera which is used solely for people who are entering the map for the first time. You know, and you could even teleport that around, I suppose, maybe, to the set angles and origins and outputs and shit like that. I don't know. Anyway, you don't have any more spectator cameras. I'm clicking the mouse here, nothing's going on. Ooh. Okay, let's add a bot. Oh, I can't do it like that, can I? Okay, here I am, Mr. Activator. Not the best choice of character so far, because this person over here, this medic person, will just get destroyed soon, I'm sure. I don't know. Anyway, let us start off. First off, you're getting odd kind of artifacts there, transparent images overlaid upon one another. That happens when you use the transparent key value in or property in a VMT. Try alpha test instead. In any case, I'm not a fan of using textured materials on the death side of the partition wall. There's two reasons really. One is it can obscure the view. As you can see here, everything looks sort of darker behind it. The second one is that you can spray on them. Now, it's not a problem here, but when you're in an area where the window over to the other side is fairly small, then if somebody has sprayed upon it from the previous round, then obviously that you know, makes it harder for the activator. I recommend just using block bullets myself, and that's because it provides a nice clear view of the other side, and obviously by default it blocks any kind of damage from going through, explosive, any kind of projectiles, you know, rap assassin, the flare guns. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You don't have to worry about that at all. That's that. This free run button here, I don't know what that means. I know it's a free run button because I played the map before, but to me it just looks like some kind of weird Japanese Easter egg button. So if I were a new person or a thicko, or I don't know, maybe a nice innocent child who was curious, then I'd just come up and press this button and then go, oh, it's free run mode. Oh, okay, well that's that. Looks like I've just blown my go. So I'd at least put free run on top of that. I actually think that free run mode shouldn't be used these days. I put it in Castle Stevie because on Stevie's server it was a free run was called occasionally, and it was allowed. You know, it wasn't against the rules, and you had this system or issue of honour where somebody could say free run, but then they would start to activate traps. Now some servers kick or ban for that, but I think that's a bit daft because the purpose of the death character here is to kill people. Now he could use the traps if he wanted to and press buttons and stuff, but he could also lie to the runners as well. He could say, I'm not going to kill you, you can trust me. And then if he does actually activate a trap, well, it's on the runners, you know. And as a benefit, the activator has proven himself to be an arsehole. So now the rest of the server realises that as well. So, but keep that if you like, it's entirely up to you. But I personally, I'm not going to use them in future. Speed lanes. Speed lane is a nice distance here from the glass, that's fantastic. The only problem is that it's very close to the teleporter at the end, and you can find yourself accidentally jumping onto the teleporter if you're not careful. Oh shit, there you go. So I would recommend having your teleporters at least 2 meters away from your speed lane. You could even stop your speed lane early, like there. I know you've left a gap there, which is good, because one of the common things that I dislike about speed lanes in other maps is that they stop at the very end of the wall here, and then you can't get off because you've been jammed into the wall. Rather annoying. Also, your teleporter there, I collide with it. It doesn't really matter, but I would make that non-solid, and the reason being is if you're running up and down against it, it's unlikely. There is a small chance that somebody could jump against it and you know, not get into it in time. But I just find the jumping up and down motion to be a little bit disconcerting, you know, a bit uncomfortable. But that's a personal thing, I'd say. I won't comment on visuals unless I have to, because this is an alpha map. The same with other details like audio and what have you. You know. That is soundscapes and stuff. I would wait until beta stage, or until you've decided to, you know, to start detailing properly, that to give details. But what I will say is that I find this soundscape a little bit annoying, the kind of buzzing sound in the background. But again, I'll save complex details for later. I don't like the fact that you cannot shoot buttons. I know I mentioned this in a previous test and you probably already know about it, but preventing people from shooting buttons is a bit useless, because there's nothing wrong with shooting a button, and on some servers that allow weapons it could even be a strategy. You could stand over here and go, and they make the runners think that you're standing here, and then just shoot the button. Ah! Ish, sort of thing, yeah? Opens up a bit of tactics. Servers could even give people different kinds of weapons. This one, for example, the shotgun is better at shooting buttons at closest range. Oh, I love that green come off there. So it's good in a pinch. But the pistols, of course, are better for long distance accuracy, depending on the size of the button. But any further than that, of course, and the accuracy does fall off somewhat. That's pretty interesting. And I believe you have plus use. Hello? One moment. Sure, I've got that enabled. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Oh, maybe you haven't got it plus use then. Maybe, I don't know. Oh. Oh, it's because they haven't come out of spawn. Oh, dumb fuck. Well done, very well done. I suppose you don't want people triggering the button before they've come out, do you? Anyway, yeah. Not quite sure why that guy's still here, but whatever. Yeah, so, onwards. Okay, again, the speed lane here is a bit too close to the teleporter. I would move that. Your walls here are a bit thin. I recommend at least 24 units. I recommend 32 units because it's easier to work with on the grid, and it always means that you've got a nice chunk to play with. I like the fact that you've capped off the bottom of the wall here with brick. Just be mindful that if you were to have a block bullet top part and another texture at the bottom, you'd have to check to see if the splash damage of other weapons can get through. I don't think it can, but it's always worth checking. Buttons are nice, well placed. I would possibly put them down a touch, maybe about 8 units, 64 units, so that the top of the button is level with you know, the central position here, the crosshair, and that's just so I can see over the top of the button. It doesn't matter if I have to sort of like lean down slightly to press the button, that's fine. You may consider making them partially transparent, but the biggest issue I have is the fact that if you run against the button you get stuck on it. I don't like that as a death player, because I like to run around really quickly, and if I get caught on something and then somebody escapes past a trap, it pisses me off. So I would recommend that you get a nice big clip brush, the same thickness as your buttons, and then just place it over the front here, so when I'm going across the buttons I'm not going to get stuck on them at all. And the nice thing about clips, of course, is that even though it stops players colliding, it doesn't prevent weapons colliding through a clip. So that's that. Cool. Now this is interesting. I'm not entirely sure what that button does there. We've discussed using this area, oh shit, as a kind of a puzzle house. The reason I suggested that was because you sort of come here and you disappear too quickly. What you're making is a kind of story map, and you want people to get familiar with the areas and appreciate the characters and stuff like that. So perhaps what you could do is put this woman upstairs, maybe. I don't know. In a bed. I don't want to, you know, press too much there in case it starts to go a bit dodgy. In any case, you've got a lot of room to play with if you can come up with some ideas here. We discussed having like a key or something in rooms. Bear in mind that on a 32 player server, excuse me, a worst case scenario, you're going to have to try and provide things for the maximum number of players to do, and maybe scale it down if you've got a few players. So perhaps you could have lots of rooms, or you could make the item harder to find if there were more players, or perhaps they needed to find 2 parts of an item. You want to try and think about the kind of time that you want people to remain in here. So let's say you wanted people to stay for, I don't know, 25 to 30 seconds. You'd have to sort of pretend to be 5 people and then see how long it takes you to find something, and then do the same with 32. I suppose what you could do is increase the number of hiding spaces, but even then luck comes into it as well. You could even add some traps, some booby traps. You obviously got to be careful because you don't want to have too many chance traps, although I think if you've got, say, 24 hiding places and 2 booby traps, I think that's a pretty safe number, you know. And it also opens up a little bit of concerned play, like you see in the bank vault, where some people are cowards and don't open up any vaults, whereas other people just have balls of steel like me, where we just sort of go and open up every vault, victory or death style. So that's that. But otherwise I like the style of the place. It's a bit barren at the moment, but again, that's detailing. So yeah, onwards. Boop. Here I am in this wonderful place. This room is rather small, rather easy to jump on and off teleporters by accident, as you can see. That's a bit of a problem. So what I advise you to do there is to make the room larger, put more distance between the teleporters, and try to have your teleportation destinations, say 128, 192, maybe more units away from your teleporter, because as you teleport, your momentum and direction in the world is conserved, a little bit like Portal, you know. So if I were to go backwards here, then I would teleport in front of the teleporter, but my momentum there would continue me onto there, so I'd sort of get in a loop, and that's a bit uncomfortable, you know. Same situation here with the glass. This choice of texture actually reflects. It has a cube map, end map functionality, as you can see, and it also reflects or has light maps as well, even though they're very hard to see, but you can see the patterns of light and what have you on them. Those combined make it harder to see out what's going on. You can see that the road here looks rather dull, and that the buildings opposite are rather bright, and there's lots of detail in those buildings, so it'd be easy to miss players. But that's also down to the fact that there's no sunlight here, you know. Sunlight is not being cast into the road, and you could fix that by taking this whole area, rotating it 90 degrees or whatever, or maybe even just adjusting your sun's angle. But you'll have to consider shadows and lighting and stuff like that later on. So here we are again with the second room. Now these two rooms here, I think they should be combined into one room. Make it wider and have it overlooking both of these traps. There's not a lot of distance between them, because the problem here you have is that you're using teleporters to go from area to area, and if you teleport and you've got a limited field of vision here, it makes it very easy to miss runners, and if they get past you it can be really frustrating. So personally, as a rule, I always try and reduce or minimise the number of teleporters as much as I can. I don't like the use of teleporters, and I always try and plan my death or activator path so that it takes the shortest distance. So let's say you have an outer curve, then I put the death path on the inner curve so the death doesn't have to run as far. But if you were to put me here, or maybe lower me down a bit, about halfway, and I'd be able to see both players, then I could run from one button to the other and I'd have a better view. So that's that really. And that's it for the activator course really, this section of the map anyway. So what I'll do is I will cut the activator for now and go on to running. Oh, I can't kill myself. Let us kill bot 1.
Victory.
Let's go! Let's do the fort in the garbage disposal! Let's do the fort in the garbage disposal!
Okay, here I am in the runner side. Now I know that the sound effects and what have you are going to appeal to the kiddies, but the change between this kind of quiet area and then just this weird disembodied sound effect and then this sort of idle model here feels a bit weird, you know. Maybe you could add some effects, or maybe fade the sound in, add some background noise, some talking, whatever, just so it didn't seem like the guy pops out of nowhere and isn't really part of the map. The fact that he's here at all is a bit weird, to be honest, but whatever. I don't know if he's here to help us by breaking us out or if he's here to destroy us. It's weird, but I've never seen JoJo. I recommend against the use of these no entry decals. I understand that you want to tell players that they can't go here, and that's fine, but it obscures my view of what's going on over here, and it also looks really obnoxious. It says, "You're not supposed to go here." I think they're okay occasionally, but when they're used in such a big way here, it just feels weird. You could block access to that area over there simply by putting some you know, some bars, really, because this is some form of prison after all, and at least we can see through there. Or you could I don't know, maybe even let us through here, or perhaps make this some glass with a door, a window or something, I don't know. Or you could even have this somewhere later on. It's entirely up to you. But we'll talk about design shortly. Here I'm going through here, not dying. Tee hee hee. Haha. Secret room. I'm not sure, but I think when two players touch this door at the same time, it may stop it. So you might want to check the spawn flags on that one. Talk about trap design later on. I really don't understand what that means, but whatever. I don't understand what this guy's here for either. He's just chilling. I would change the text a little bit, make it a bit faster to appear on the screen. Maybe make it white or something. The green makes it look like something out of Half-Life. That's funny. I know it's just probably the best way you can get the model to be posed, but it just looks really weird. It's comical. She's solid! She makes a flesh noise. That's wrong. I wonder if there's an Easter egg here. No. Okay, never mind. So, ideas on the house. Yeah, I mean, it's a Japanese house. I expect they don't really have floors. If they did, I expect the staircase would be an interior one. It'd be fairly simple with wood and gaps and stuff like that. My advice would be to make a layout that naturally splits players up. So rather than having, say, a square house with a staircase on the one side, all the players rush up the narrow staircase along a corridor and then into rooms. I would have a larger area with a central staircase, which is wide enough to accommodate a bunch of players, and then as they get to the top of the stairs, split them off into different branches or wings. So you've got like the east wing and the west wing, and then some players will go left, some players will go right, and then they'll each stop off into multiple rooms. So let's say 31 players. You can group those into fours, so that's 4, 8, 12, 16, or 24, 8, no, 32, isn't it? Yeah, so it's about 8 groups of players, let's say, if you have Skyall players grouping into groups of 4. Then if you made at least, what did I say, 8 rooms, 8 places to hide, that would probably satisfy most people. So let's say 8 rooms as a minimum, but you're probably better off going for some more. You could even have a basement or some more obscure rooms. You could even make some more rooms, in fact, and shut them off and open them and close them at different times. Even make them secret rooms that needed to be accessible through Easter eggs or prior progress or whatever, you know. So yeah, plenty of ideas there. Coming out of here, this feels rather strange. I feel like I'm in a virtual reality simulation or demonstration map. It's like, the demonstration has ended. Please get off the ride. This doesn't really make any sense. It sort of ends rather abruptly at this house. I expect it's obviously just the fact that it's an alpha map, and you want to do something a bit more better later on. Maybe you could have you know, a winding path with hills, hillocks, and some grass and trees and shit like that, you know. But that's a lot of work, isn't it, really? So I won't really talk about that. And the transition from one area to the next. Woo! Here I am in this place. I suppose if you're to think about transitions, you could have from like that place to this place. You could fade, if people go in here, you could have like a fade, a screen fade. You know, and then you could have text on the screen, like Matty is journeying to whatever place. Good thing about the game text, of course, is that you can have it for the activator and not for everybody. So you could give each member their own personal text, depending on the time that they went through this transitional tunnel. The screen fade effect, I think that's global, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how you do that really. I guess what you could do is you could teleport players somewhere and then teleport them to the next location a short time later, but you need to sort of silence them and stop them from being able to see things. I don't know. Maybe something to think about. These are garages, so maybe what you could do is put this car in a garage, if you can do that, like maybe have the garage open up occasionally, just to be a random surprise, maybe even a special Easter egg or you know, that kind of thing. This is an interesting trap. Hey, it's Death Room. This trap sort of came out of nowhere really. I think you should put make the cars visible. I don't know. At least add some sound effects. Maybe have a sound effect play first, and then have the cars coming out, so people hear the cars and then think, "Oh fuck!" rather than, you know, bang, you're dead. Shit. And again, with these, they're probably not necessary. These no entry decals. People probably expect that they can't get in here anyway by the fact that they're you know, darkened. But I don't know, maybe you could put some boxes or something, and then when the cars come through, you could have the boxes fling out the way, or maybe even just disappear. This reminds me of 28 Days Later. I think this video is going to be very long, isn't it? No entry decal. I like this, but I would bring it forward. Maybe have this against this wall here, and then have it tilted a bit further to the right. Make this gap here a bit wider, so people are sort of naturally moved into this tunnel by the bus, and then you could bring these barriers here and pull them up a little bit, so people sort of come around here, you know. You wouldn't have to worry about a no entry decal there. And in order to make people realise that this is an entrance, you should put a light or lights in here, maybe tunnel lights, some there, you know, or something like that, because as you've probably seen in other games, people are drawn towards lights. You can use lights, coloured or not coloured, to attract attention to things. I'm going to make myself Buddha mode here. This is interesting. Again, a strange transition to have these barriers here, but whatever, that'll come later on. I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it's out of JoJo. So I like the stairs here. It feels like I'm going up into a park, but I think maybe some trees around the outside would be nice, just to prettify the place a little bit. So here I am being all mini-gamey. I don't see the point in blocking people at the beginning there. I think you should just sort of let them immediately go onto the play fields. My thoughts on this mini-game are, it feels like an ending so soon into the map. And the reason it feels like an ending is, A, it's a mini-game, and those are usually reserved for the end. I don't think it's a problem having a mini-game at this point. As long as the minigame is mini, you know. The music sort of does it as well. The music, it's like a crescendo, you know. You've gone through this quiet map, you've explored a city and a house. Oh, I've got to press the button, haven't I? And then you've got this like music that sounds like it's a boss phase, and I'm thinking, oh wow, does this mean we win the map if we win this? So if there's like a less intense and exciting piece of music, then that might be a bit a bit better. Whoops. I think the delay between each of the button hits here is a bit long. You could even have the button spawn immediately after the other one was pressed, because that means you could have players preemptively take positions in the corners if there are enough players, which encourages teamwork. And, you know, smart play. And if there's only a few players... Fuck. Okay, whatever. Not quite sure what's going on there. I think I appear to have won. Hooray.
Scout calling. This isn't a social call. I've got work.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This music at the start of every round is, to me, a little bit annoying. I think that would get tiring a bit quickly. Perhaps what you could do is use some NV globals, and have it play every 5 rounds. You know the is it not dungeon? The Skyrim-esque map where that dungeon creator guy made, where you start off cliffhanger type thing, and you're on a train, it crashes and all that jazz. That gets really annoying. So I recommend you have it, say, have the intro play every 5 rounds or something. You could have the intro play once at the start of the round and then 5 rounds later. And given that each map session has about 10 rounds, that means the intro gets played about 3 times. Or maybe even have it played for the first 2 rounds and then never again. And you can do that using... well, that should be fairly easy to do, to be honest. Don't know who this guy is. Maybe some text to explain who it is and what it's here for, and why I have to succeed at this. Okay, so that's good. The button came up pretty quickly. That's a good delay time, I'd say. I think the use of the text, the training hints. I like training hints. They're useful, but they don't stay around for very long, and they can seem a little bit overused sometimes. Hit this button. So maybe you want to investigate text in the form of a sprite. You can configure sprites so that they are persistent in the world, so they are shown through geometry, and if you have the sprite just there on the button until you press it, that would be amazing. Maybe a blinking light and a sound effect as well. That would complement the music, I think, because the thing can disappear and all you've got then is the button. This minigame goes on a bit too long for my taste and kills a few too many people. So I suppose if you had the buttons come on one after the other, then it would make it a bit easier as well, you know. Also, I don't get what this guy's here for, because I don't know if he was trying to kill us earlier on or what. And you seem to have some activator traps in there. I tried them, but I never understood what they did. I presume that the person who hits a button gets zapped by them, but it's just not obvious. Maybe you should introduce some more hazards. Maybe some flame turrets that come up out the ground and then they shoot flames around, and they can be reused on a cycle. You know, to make it a bit more interesting. Not something that's terribly difficult, but makes it a bit more interesting. So here we are in this wonderful hotel of yours. It looks very nice. I could do with some atmospheric music, perhaps. Just something in the background, you know. Looks good. I like the sound of the music, the waves lapping, it's pretty good. I wish that we could spend more time here, though. It's rather relaxing and peaceful. maybe you could have something outside, some kind of obstacle course, but maybe a quest to get into the hotel. Maybe you go to the front doors and it says, oh, they're locked, try another entrance, and you could alter the entrance on every round. Alternate, sorry. And then I'm forced to just kind of look around and go and check these buildings out. Oh, this is good. I like the fact that I can actually roam for a little bit, but the clipping prevents me from going and seeing these buildings. I would like to go and see the buildings, and do you know, I think that Deathrun could use a kind of a map with the non-linear style, you know, like an exploration style to it, where the red team are loosed in an area and then they have to go hunting around. Like earlier on with the house, some go here, some go there, and they each go to a different building, you know? So this church, whatever it is, some people go in there and there might be some traps in there, or there might be some clues or a puzzle they have to figure out. You know, that sort of thing. It just fleshes the map out a bit and makes it a bit more interesting, and makes each run through a bit more different for him. There doesn't appear to be any kind of supporting structures for these floors either. I like the look of the hotel, but I think it could be improved a bit. Maybe the choice of the interior texture here with brick could be softened, make it maybe some kind of white plaster or cladding. The exterior walls seem far too thin for such a tall building. They need to be reinforced, really. The fact that there's only one balcony here is also rather strange. But hey ho. Maybe you could make these automatic doors a bit wider and have them open more slowly to make them seem luxurious, and have a kind of a psh sound. Maybe even a revolving door, you know? Not the one that kills you like in Trump Tower, but something that makes it look luxurious. Perhaps a revolving door that doesn't revolve until you are near it, to make it feel like you are the person pushing it. These shiny curbs are a bit weird. Maybe it's a dodgy choice of wood, I don't know. Those look rather interesting. Soundscape choice is a bit weird though. Again, it's kind of an electronic light kind of thing. A trickling fountain sound effect would be nice. Maybe some music coming from a radio or something, I don't know. Or just I like the fact that the ambiance has changed. The DSP effects, digital signal processing, which is the sounds where you know, my voice there is a little bit vibratory. This does look rather sparse, but again, it's detail, so you know. Okay, convenient. So, oh shit, what have I done? Okay, I'm going now. Bye. Have I triggered something? Oh god. Okay, I'm going to pretend like nothing happened. I wouldn't get too hung up on the work that you put into this hotel. I know it feels like you don't want to do it again. You don't want to work on the place, but on the second run through, it'll be a lot easier if you just follow some principles of things that you learned from your previous work. For instance, minimum wall thicknesses of 32 or whatever, longer or wider staircases. Okay, I'm going to turn that off now. Thanks. So this is kind of fire escape-esque. It doesn't really scream luxury, you know, hotel or anything like that. And this is really close to my head. Normally you just have and there's no banister. Health and safety nightmare. This feels weird. I can't go over here. Just an invisible wall. I could go up against these things, but you know. Now this stuff, I don't understand what all this text is about, and the fact that I've been prevented from... Okay. Right. So presumably there's some kind of time-based thing here. I don't know. Right. Okay. You might want to increase the resolution of the cube map in this room so that the mirror looks a bit nicer. Because at the moment it's a bit poor. Maybe even make it an actual funk mirror and lower it down a little bit. Because if you look at me,
I'm running circles around you.
the top of the bed comes up to my chest. Maybe let me get on the bed as well, so I can fulfill my sexual fantasies in Team Fortress 2. Very small room and no bathroom either. Whatever. I shall leave you a good TripAdvisor review. This is nice, but I can't see over the balcony. This, I can't get up onto this ledge here without crouch jumping. I try to avoid crouch jumping wherever possible. Unless it's like a tricky jump for heavies with their reduced speed, because crouch jumping can be rather annoying, and if somebody doesn't know what to do, then it's just a little bit of a steeper learning curve for them. Perhaps what you could do is have a bit of a step here, some furniture. People could jump once and then jump again. You know my thoughts on this, so I want to get there, I suppose. So I want to jump there. But I can't jump up because when I do, I hit the ceiling. And I'm really shit at strafe jumping. As I understand it, you have to jump and then turn towards the place you want to go and then hold the movement key. Let's have a look. I guess. Ugh. But I actually have to have a good run off first. Oh, what's that? Don't think I want to know, to be honest. So let's see. Fuck. Yeah, so I would make these windows higher, or at least remove the collision from the top there so people don't realise, because it's a nightmare. Oh shit. I've never spent hardly any time of my TF2 career air strafing for whatever reason. Okay. What the fuck? What? I don't understand what that is. I don't know who Polnareff is or anything like that. I don't know why it randomly died. I suppose this is a good time to switch over to the other segment of the activators section. So I'm Mr. Activator. At the end of my previous round as Activator, I was in a road and then I had no idea what was going on after that. All I know is that the players did some stuff and that somehow I was teleported into this wonderful hotel. Where are we? And there I must remain. Ooh. Ugh. So these guys are... Oh, where did that come from? The fuck? Where's the bed and the mirror? Okay. So here I am in my death zone. Oh, I think I was over here, wasn't I? Or something. Well, in any case, there's some shit, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, I've got to wait until the runners come up, and I don't know whatever they're doing. I don't know what that music's for or why it's been triggered, but maybe that was because I was flying around. I'll just stop that because it's annoying. So I have some traps here. What does that do? Nothing, okay. Okay, whatever. So yeah, I'm sort of teleporting into this hotel and I have to wait an age to see the runners. That's not good. I need to know what's going on where people are. You know, I'm part of the game as well. I can't just sort of hang around and wait for them to do whatever they need to do. So you should build me a path within the hotel. Maybe you could have, say, one side of the rooms which are, you know, the ones that the red team go in, and the other side rooms are where I can go, or something like that, or I don't know. Maybe you could have two staircases, one at one side of the hotel, one side of the other, one the other side. Maybe a lift for me, an elevator. But in any case, some way that I can see the runners on each floor. I'd like to watch them as they make their progress across the windows and do whatever it is they need to do. Maybe have a bit more of an effect on what they're doing there, because at this point they're just sort of doing parkour and things, dying off and having a lovely time, and I'm not doing anything. So as the activator I'm really kind of bored, whereas I'm the guy who needs to be killing people, you know. And here I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? When you're... I don't quite know what happens after this. I rarely actually get to this point. I don't know why there's a hole on the floor. So where do we start off? We start off over here for some reason. The only way to get to the bar is via a ceiling hatch, which is rather strange. Whatever. And then... nope, okay. That's that, I suppose. Okay, fair enough. Let's talk design. Woo! Whoa.
Victory.
That's weird. The map has some kind of internal timer that's not obvious at all. I'm guessing you'll have some kind of motivator or counter or timer, round time in future, but you should display that in some way. Either an internal round timer using a team round timer entity, and if you can't get that to display, then all you need to do is have it turned off at the start of the round, and then in your TF Logic arena have on arena round start send the show in HUD and enable input or resume to your timer. So it needs to be turned off at the start and then shown again at the beginning of the round, because for some strange reason when you launch an arena map, the Team Fortress 2 server sends an input to any team round timer entities to turn off show in HUD. It just does this part of the game mode. It's weird. So you'll have to basically turn it back on when the arena round starts. Right, here we are, design, style, time and shit. This room here, this whole area, I don't understand its purpose. I haven't watched JoJo, so maybe I'm just out of the loop, but this is some kind of prison where I've been put. I'm guessing I need to save Holy, which is fine. I'm being prevented in doing that by being held captive down here, and I'm guessing this Firehawk guy is the one who's going to come and help me out of it, but I would appreciate some explanation as to why he's doing that. You know, maybe a voice line that says I'm here to help you, or text, maybe Perhaps what you could do is you could have your game text at the bottom of the screen as subtitles, pretending subtitles or something, I don't know. And maybe you could get a screen overlay which puts like a speech bubble at the bottom of the screen, and your text can go in there. That'd be interesting. Make it look like a comic style. Again, alpha, so I won't comment too much on the textures, but this prison complex could possibly be expanded. At the moment we only have the one trap here. The guy who helped us out, it seems to be intent on killing us. Perhaps what you could do is instead have some kind of security system, if it's within the bounds of the JoJo universe. Maybe it's not far-fetched enough. Perhaps you could spice it up a bit. But I would envisage maybe making this a kind of a trial with some basic traps, just to sort of introduce the runners, whet their appetite a little bit. Maybe you could have some of the air strafing stuff that we talked about earlier on, or if there's any difficult to understand concepts later on in the map. For instance, if you decide to make some kind of puzzle system or clue-based gameplay, perhaps you could have a light version of that here, where you have to reveal a button or something. But bear in mind that with so many players alive at the start of the map, if you just make a button in a room pressable, then the first player out of the cell is going to go and press that button, and everybody else in the back isn't going to understand what's happened. So if anything needs to be revealed to people to educate them, then you need to make sure that they are shown and are given a few seconds to digest it before they can actually interact with it. You need to make sure that the people who haven't played the map before, who are less familiar with it, get a chance to understand what's happening. Otherwise it goes really quickly. I like the slow moving anti-rush doors. Perhaps you could incorporate that into the theme of the prison. You could have some bars and they slide open slowly, from left to right or something like that. And you could have several one of those. Each one of the doors is linked to a control system that needs to be overridden, overcome. Perhaps with your Flores lava trap in the hotel later on, you could have a mini version of that here. A smaller version that's easier, but still has enough channel width or traffic width, as I call it, to accommodate up to 31 players, or say 4 players abreast at any one time. You could have like different sets of platforms or whatever, so they can all do what they want to. Bear in mind that some servers, rarely, some servers do, like Saxon Hell, they have player pushing enabled, so people can actually push other people. It's rather interesting. And the Team Fortress 2 textures don't really work very well in my opinion. I perhaps would investigate some textures to use. You've got a bit of a difference really, a bit of a contrast between the very highly detailed pencil drawn cartoon styles of the models, of the player models, or the character models, and the environment. Perhaps you could search for similar materials on the web. I don't know. You know what I mean. Again, that's detailing. Oddly, I'm not seeing the sprites that I used to see in these lights here. I think you might have had an end glows, or you might have had sprites. But in any case, I know that it's an alpha map, but I'd avoid the use of sprites in lights unless you want to draw attention to somewhere, because the corridors are fairly simple, and these lights are the most detailed thing in here. So you're drawing attention to the ceiling. What you want to do is keep the background simple and have a sparse density of detailing, and where you want to draw attention, the attention of the player, is have your dense detailing. So obviously that door over there is the place that you want people to see, so it's there that I will put a light somewhere with a sprite, maybe give it a different colour, make it flash slightly or something, or some hazard tape, I don't know, but just keep your lighting a bit simpler. The lighting is there for just to illuminate and to also to provide a bit of an atmospheric feeling, Perhaps what you could do here is you could raise the ceiling, and then you could put in ceiling lights, skylights, so that the lighting actually comes from outside. You could even simulate this being nighttime if you wanted to, by having a kind of moonlight colour filtering through. For instance, in the Slarty's VRAD and Hammer, he actually supports an entity which I think is called Env Lighting Direct, which is maybe I don't think you'd be able to. Well, I think it's an entity to which you can use in certain areas to simulate direct lighting. So, for instance, if you wanted to have, say, multiple skyboxes, but you also wanted to have different lighting styles in different areas, so dark in one area and light in another, then in this area you could just not have any of the 2D skybox material, or 3D. Actually, I don't know how it works. And then you'd have the lighting direct entity somewhere in the map, and that would simulate the moonlight or whatever. But you make the ceilings higher, have some lights shining down. That means your light entities, light spot and what have you, will be further away, so that the bright patch will not be as visible, and you also get a nice kind of a conal effect, you know. But it really depends on what kind of lighting fits this environment. You may find that strip lighting is more suitable, but that's up to you. And then we sort of go out of a prison and into this kind of Japanese garden area. This doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. If this is supposed to be Holly's home, or our home, why is it we have our own underground prison complex? Perhaps you want to do a kind of transition here. Maybe, you know, make the prison complex larger and then introduce a kind of transition that we talked about earlier, where you arrive home and then you want to get in, but there's this weird kind of bloke going, nope, I don't think so, mate. And then maybe put a few more hazards and stuff outside, just to make it feel like, you know, people are attacking you and stuff. And then finally, when you get here, Holly! Cool, so that's that. And then do what you need to do. And then when you've decided what you want to do, you've resolved, you know. Perhaps what you could do actually is you could search for a notepad rather than a key. You need to find the clues, you know, you could find clues in the house as to what's happened, and blah blah blah. So then a transition between that place and this place. So this place here, this kind of urban setting, maybe what you could do is you could combine this and the park. I don't know if that works in the universe, but this is rather kind of an inner city style. It's possible to have a park round the corner. Maybe you could make it longer. You could even have going through buildings and stuff, you know, into a residential area at the back, or turning a corner and what have you. And then eventually, you know, you find yourself in the park, whatever. Also, when you get to the mini game, you might want to wait a little bit before the other people are teleported. So perhaps somebody comes up and triggers the mini game, and you have a 10 or 15 second countdown timer. Before the minigame starts, like, you know, or maybe even have it sent to players teleporting in 10, 9, 8, 7, that sort of thing. You could do that by having a single game text entity, and then just add output message display, add output message display, you know, that sort of thing. Even, you know, just doing that really. Perhaps you could have some kind of teleportation effect here. Get a teleport particle. Lol. so that everybody, and maybe even teleport people around the whole place, one after the other. Do, make it look impressive. If you need help setting that up, it's not too hard. All you do is you place several point teleports around the area, point_teleports, and you make the teleporting entity the activator, and then you have your teleportation logic, a logic case, and each of the cases points to a different point teleport, and then you just do a pick random shuffle, one after the other every 0.25 seconds or something at 0.1 second, and it goes through each of the point teleports one by one, so people go you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, cool. Ah, so it uses touch. Okay, nifty. That's a good way to save entities. So this thing here, yeah, you know my thoughts on that. Make it maybe a little bit smarter, because it sort of comes out, rather than it being like a, mind you, maybe it isn't a park, perhaps it's actually a military testing ground or something, because you've got a satellite there and a radio tower. I'm not entirely sure. It's just strange. Maybe what you could do is you could put, if it is some kind of place with, you know, equipment and shit, is put a tower on there, and then when it's time for the battle to start, it blows up, and then the robot bloke is there, you know. Skybox seems a little bit empty. It's not too bad though, I guess. Wooden buildings seem a little bit out of place. I'm not quite sure where you've got them there and this here, but again, I don't know the universe, so... Alright, let's see what else we've got. Okay. Ooh. Here we go over here slowly. This, I can't actually see this thing from down there. Or maybe I can, okay, fine. Maybe you want to drop it down a bit and make it slightly smaller. Put it on a backdrop, make it easier to read. I like this, but again, people can't really get to it, so they don't really get the benefit. Strange that I can see over here. Oh, I suppose you've no drawn the side. Spooky. Okay, so what could you do here? There's no water. I must have broken the map somehow. Like I said earlier, you know, have people split up and walk around. This layout you've got here is quite useful because you've got these paths here which sort of naturally take people to places. Let them wander on the grass, that's fine. What you could perhaps do is have some waterside properties. You know, have buildings on the other side as well. And have some other buildings that people can explore, investigate, but again, that's sort of detailing really. Yeah, I've definitely broken something. Either that or it's a prop dynamic and you've got some kind of logic that deletes things, I don't know. Maybe what you could do is, rather than having the staircase either side and having this counter right at the back there, that's not very realistic for a hotel environment. When people come in, they usually just go straight to the reception area, and they go through a door and then they can go to the staircase. And then they can carry on going through to recreational facilities like lounges and stuff like that, you know. The hotels normally aren't this kind of profile. They're normally much wider or longer, you've got this massive room here, and it's just taken up by a fountain and a reception right at the back. It's a sort of an unrealistic use of space for a hotel. This banister rail seems a bit too high.
Alright, I feel good.
Maybe not, maybe not. I'd drop it down just a tad, because my view model here is, you know, looking here, and as a human being I don't tend to sort of look at, you know, banister rails at that height. That's like shoulder height. So just for realism purposes, for people looking down and stuff. The bricks is a bit weird. Again, I'd have an interior which is kind of cladding, you know, or wallpaper or whatever. Interesting lighting. I'm not so sure that the lights would be shining on the ceiling like that. That seems a bit unrealistic. Floor 1, okay, yeah. Yeah, elevators would not be amiss in a hotel. And it's okay to make your stairways a bit more like hotel corridor stairways. They usually have doorways. You go through the doorway, there's a bit of a landing space, and then you go up some steps, and then you have this this crash floor here, which is fine. But you'd have banister rails, you know. And then you'd have a bit of a landing on the top there, because if you have an open space that just goes straight onto a stairway, then it can be a bit of a hazard. So pull the stairs back and provide a bit of a landing spot, and then maybe make some doors, some front door rotating perhaps, you know, that open automatically when touched or when close. Spawn doors, you know. These hotel rooms could use numbers. I think you could probably stand to make the hotel larger than it is already. What I would do is I would work from the rooms outwards, so count or think about how many rooms you'd want in a hotel. Think about the kind of space the rooms in this hotel would have, and the kind of other rooms in the hotel, and then just make the hotel as long as it needs to be. If you want to stop people from going to the other rooms, then you could have the stairway come out here, you know, have a corridor up in that direction, and then a corridor up in that direction, and then have you know, some doors here that don't open, with a sign in front with like a, you know, a no entry or whatever, a barrier, or say cleaning, I don't know, so people know that that's off limits and it's only this section of the floor which is used. I don't see why I can't get around the corner here, it's a bit weird. I think on a balcony you'd probably have a sliding door. Never mind. So this this stuff here. Oh shit! I don't quite know where I need to go. I need to smash my way into that.
Let's go.
It just seems strange that you got only one. You know, maybe what you should do is go from balcony to balcony. That seems more realistic. And also, if you were a hotel, you wouldn't have this front room here, which is actually quite a decent space devoted just to cleaning and stuff. It would actually be a room where you'd sleep in, with curtains as well, of course. Don't forget, you don't want people looking through the window at you when you're having sex and taking a shit in, whatever. So this is nice. It sort of gets the player prepared for what's to come. Shut up. I don't know why the music's playing. I presumably that means come on, come on, come on. So, okay. Nifty. Just a tip here, if you take several clip brushes, they can be 1 unit thick, but you make them 16 units high, then people will actually go boom up them as if they were ladders. It's very clever. You could even make it into a model if you were concerned about brush faces, you know. So I don't know what's going on here, but I presume there's hazards. You know my thoughts about this room. I think the density of detailing is a bit too much here. It's clustered. the brick wall is too detailed. It sort of detracts or takes attention away from the what's going on. So I don't know what is gameplay space and what is just props. So perhaps what you want to do is make it a bit clearer. I don't understand why you've got this collection of tables here either. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Like, who in their right mind would put tables up like that? I don't think anybody would. Oh, I can't move.
You failed.
That's clever. Wonder how you did that. I can't press anything. Fair enough. Well, that's that. I think I've covered pretty much everything. So I suppose to summarise, I would say
3, 2, 1. Fight.
expand on each area, provide more traps, take a fresh look at the detailing, work on the transitions between areas, try to explain a bit more of the story with a way that isn't sort of repetitive and annoying. You know, it doesn't prevent people from playing the map for too long, because you don't want them to just do nothing for 10 seconds whilst they're being told things. You know, they want to get straight into the action. Give people things to do, you know, things to think about. And I think do not be afraid. The most important thing is do not be afraid to tear down what you have built so far and to remake it. I know you put effort into it and you don't want to do anything you know, like too drastic, but in my experience, if you do, then it becomes a lot easier the second time around and then the third time. And if you just remember that if you're in alpha stage, you don't need to worry about detailing too much. The most important thing is to block out really quickly, you know, just to get the general gist of an area. Apply a few textures here and there, you know, don't go overboard with props and textures. Just to give people a sense of what something's going to be like. Your private playtesting, and even if you look at Steamworks Extreme, people have put that on their servers, and like the last quarter of the map, the last third of the map in fact, is just dev textures with some half-arsed traps, and yet people still have it in their rotations. So don't be afraid to do that and have it, you know, playtesting on some servers, as long as you put in a kind of work in progress thing somewhere, you know, and a link to feedback and stuff. If I were doing this, then I would kind of start again, and I would draw some plans. I'd take all the points and I'd kind of come up with a plan about how I can expand in different areas. Maybe, right, say you've got 4 areas, you've got area 1, 2, 3 and 4. Write what you need to do in each area, the things that you can add, things you can remove, improve upon, and then you can start to plan a layout in each area. Do a bit of thinking. You may have seen the map that I did for Castle Stevie 3. It was like what I called a palette map. What I did was I started a VMF with a bunch of 128s by 128 or 512 or 256 squares, and I went through all the materials that I wanted to use and pasted them on, so I could see them all next to each other and decide which materials I wanted to use, like a palette, you know, like a paint palette. And then I started to experiment with player models. I took the heavy model, put it into a prop static, and then put them side by side to see what kind of width a place needed to be, and to see how large an area needed to be to accommodate the number of players in each area. Like in Steamworks Extreme, part of my redesign process has been to think about how many players there are at the beginning and how many players there are at the end. So you've got lots of players at the start and very few players at the end. So the traps at the beginning should be wider and easier to do, so that people don't die by being pushed or having their vision obscured or falling off things. And and then later on you've got the more tricky traps where the narrower, you know, that sort of thing. Because if you have narrow traps at the beginning or hard traps, then you know, you kill off a lot of people very quickly, and it can be rather depressing. Things like that. So I can't think of anything more to say. So I think I'll leave it here for now. Hopefully this video hasn't corrupted. I shall upload it very shortly. If you have any questions, feel free to ask and I will answer. That's not a problem. If you need me to write anything down or go into more detail about things, then I'm happy to do that as well. So take care, speak to you soon.